Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
Good morning to you. It is the BJ Show, Brad and John. I'm Brad. He is John. Together we make, well, I don't know what we make. It's bjshow.co. John, are you ready? We're going to try the old telephone here and see if it works. We're calling Bob Onder, and we'll see if I got everything squared away from yesterday, which we had some problems. Hopefully we'll be smooth sailing today. Oh, the phone's ringing already.
Good morning.
Mr. Onder, or I should say Dr. Onder, good morning to you.
How are you doing today?
Doing fine. Now, you are in Jeff City. Are you, explain this. Are you actually in line, or what's the status?
No, I'm not in Jeff City yet today. I'm still at home. Anyone who signs up the first day, they pick the ballot order by drawing lots. So there's no need to camp out the night before, or 2 days before, whatever, like people used to in the old days.
Yeah. Now, how long ago was that? You've been around the political sphere for a while. When you first got into politics, did you ever have to stand in line like that?
No, it worked the same way. Yeah, I ran for state rep in 2006, and it worked the same way.
Now,
yeah.
You have done quite a few things in the political field. Just mentioned the fact that you ran for state rep. You were a state rep. You were a state senator. Earlier this year, you were a candidate for lieutenant governor, and now you're a candidate for CD3. But this is not your first run at U.S. Senate, U.S. House, is it?
Yeah, that's right. In 2007 and 2008, I passed. I served in the Missouri House of Representatives, and I passed the strongest law in the country to fight illegal immigration. Governor Matt Blunt signed that. We banned sanctuary cities and cracked down on contractors hiring illegal aliens. We ended catch and release. But in 2008, Kenny Holsoff, our congressman at the time, ran for governor, and I did run for the it was Congressional District 9 at the time, and there were about 5 of us in the race. I came in second to Blaine Luetkemeyer. So I went back to private life, practiced medicine, raised my kids, and Blaine went to Congress.
And then how long ago after that did you get back in? Because you just finished up an 8-year stint as a state senator.
That's right. I served in the Missouri Senate from 2015 to 2023, and it was a productive 8 years. We really did some monumental things. We passed two very good tax cut bills. We passed the heartbeat bill. We passed constitutional carry, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, government union reform. I got the Religious Liberty Amendment through the Senate. So it was a very productive 8 years. And, I thought, as you alluded to, I thought about continuing my service in the state government, while continuing to practice medicine and take care of my family. But, with the crisis in Washington and through our country today, there are problems, emanating from Washington, D.C. that we can only solve by sending leaders to Washington who are willing to fight, who are willing to listen to the people. And so after a lot of consultation and prayer and reflection, we decided that the best way to serve will be to serve in the United States Congress.
Now, Dr. Onder, let me go back and ask you something which just sort of piqued my interest. You must have been able to look into the future, because you mentioned that you were one of the people, or the person, that passed the anti-sanctuary city bill in the state of Missouri. How prescient is that now? I mean, you know what I mean?
I was fighting illegal immigration before President Trump was. Yes. Well, what happened is that in my state rep district in St. Charles County, actually in O'Fallon, there were actually some unscrupulous contractors using Missouri taxpayer money on a low-income housing tax credit project who were paying illegal aliens cash under the table. They were busted by the O'Fallon Police Department. So it became an issue. It's very common these days to say every state is a border state. Well, that was true in 2006 when I was running for state rep. So at the time, my state senator, Scott Roop, and I worked hard to get to that bill passed. Again, at the time, one of the major immigration reform groups called it the strongest law in the country to fight illegal immigration. And I have to say that Governor Matt Blunt made it a priority as well and signed it. And it really, within a couple of years, it really did make a big difference. But today, of course, the big problem is not what goes on in a state, as important as that law was, but Biden allowing 7.2 illegal immigrants to cross our southern border, up to 200, 300,000 a month. And I represent, for instance, the city of Wentzville. That's enough illegal immigrants to fill up the city of Wentzville in just a few days. So it is really critical that we secure the border, that we build the wall, and we bring some order and stability to really what has become a nightmare of just massive invasion of our southern borders, and along with that, the poisoning of our people with fentanyl and the exploitation of people by human trafficking.
Well, and the other situation, too, is I think it's interesting what you just brought up is the fact that look at the problem that the sanctuary cities, the New Yorks and the Chicagos and the LAs are having with the fact that they have declared themselves sanctuary cities. They probably now want to de-sanctuary city themselves, correct?
Well, that's right. That's right. The sanctuary city movement was a thumbing of the nose at our immigration law. For all the talk in D.C. right now about border deals and funding for the border and all, securing our southern border is a tiny rounding error compared to the size of our total budget. And we already have all the laws we need. Joe Biden doesn't need any additional laws to secure the border. He has to shut down the border. He has to build the wall, let the Texans put their concertina wire back up, and more than anything, stop this abuse of the so-called sanctuary or rather asylum or migrant system. Look, this is purposeful, willful violation of immigration law by Biden and the congressional Democrats. We need to restore the rule of law. We need to enforce the law, and we need to secure the border now.
Now, your district, and once again, yesterday we were talking about this in the area, on our end of the district, it's sort of like the Pac-Man kind of district, where essentially it goes from just west of Columbia, it is the southern part of Columbia, goes almost, well, in fact, it goes all the way to the Mississippi River through St. Charles County and the north part of St. Charles County, yes. Then sort of curves around to the south. It's a very diverse area. Obviously, you're from this side of the state, our side of the state. Does that give you any pause as to the fact that you might not have the best situation since the majority of the population is further to the west of us?
Well, yeah, as it turns out, 35% of the entire district is in St. Charles County. About 50% is in the St. Louis media market. But most of all, and I have very good name identification in those areas and district-wide, but most of all, my district is a sort of microcosm of the whole 3rd Congressional District. When I was in the Missouri Senate, I represented farmers, I represented manufacturing facilities, I represented universities. And that's kind of what the 3rd Congressional District is. But most of all, I'm most aligned with the voters of the 3rd Congressional District. I'm the conservative in the race. I'm the one who has a record of standing up to the Jefferson City swamp and getting conservative accomplishments across the line. And that's the kind of leader we need to send to Washington, D.C.
Well, you and I have that in common because our radio stations are pretty much geared to the western part of the St. Louis metro. And what I always find fascinating, and I preach this all the time, that if you look in St. Charles County, Warren County, Franklin County, and even the counties west of that, you go out through Montgomery County, it's a really mixed bag. There's a lot of manufacturing, a lot of agriculture, and a lot of high-tech manufacturing as well, too, in addition to your typical restaurant, type of business. And obviously, you can't miss farming. So it's very diverse as far as all the different economies are concerned.
Yeah, that's right, and that's true of St. Charles County. It's true of the western part of the St. Louis metro area, and it's certainly true of all the different of the district wide. And I've run in these counties before. I've for instance carried Crawford, St. Charles, Franklin, Montgomery, Warren counties back when I ran for Congress in the past. I know these areas. My family and I had a farm for a decade in Montgomery County. Look, I know this district, very well, and I will represent it well in Congress.
We're talking with Bob Onder. Bob, I'm going to ask you a question that you probably have never been asked before in a media interview. I know you get a lot of the same questions over and over. Okay, you ready for my question? Tell me about your parents.
My parents. My parents we are about fifth generation Missourians. My parents are both one is an accountant, one is a bookkeeper. My father spent his career trying to save money for the taxpayers of the country. My dad audited defense contracts for the federal government, for the Department of Defense. They were small businessmen. They had a tax and bookkeeping business. We had some small rental properties. And I remember going to the tax business on New Year's Eve and cleaning up, getting things all ready to go for the upcoming tax season. So, really, they were very, very much, they lived the American dream. They worked hard. They emphasized education. They stayed together. They've been married now. Oh boy, it's like 70 years. And they're just wonderful people. Brought us to church. I remember my mom would in a sense home educate us over the summer because we went to away school as we call it now, but she was convinced we would forget everything over the summer, so she would make us do math and read books over the summer. So my parents are wonderful people. They're both, thank God, still alive, and they've seen all their grandchildren.
Well, the reason I ask is because you've got a brother and a sister. Are there any other siblings besides your brother and your sister?
No, there are three of us. I have a sister who's a medical doctor up in Wisconsin, and a brother who's a very famous lawyer in the St. Louis area.
That's the reason I ask, because you've got two siblings, the three Onder kids, if we call them that. You are not only a doctor, but also an attorney. You have a JD and an MD. And your sister is the same? Does she have an MD and a JD?
No. She is a board certified internist. She was a graduate of University of Missouri, Kansas City. Her husband is a otolaryngologist, also a UMKC grad. They met together there in Kansas City, and they both still practice up in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
And your brother is Jim Onder, who the famous attorney who, matter of fact, has just been over the last year and a half was really put on a PR campaign. You see him on billboards, hear him on the radio, see him on TV, and the whole bit. What must it have been like with the three of you? Is there any sibling rivalry back and forth? The fact that obviously two doctors and an attorney, plus actually
we argued a lot. I sometimes say I was recently we were asked at a candidate forum for our central committee in St. Charles County. Do you have any special skills that we don't know about? And I said, my dad, when I was 8 and my brother was 6, he gave us a pair of boxing gloves, and neither of us have taken them off since.
Really? So you really go at it with your brother then? I mean, physically?
Jim and I are best friends, but there are always sibling rivalries. Of course, you can't choose your relatives.
Well, I find it fascinating because of the fact that the reason I asked about your parents is because obviously they did very well with their 3 kids. They inspired them. They taught them. You talked about the fact that what your mom did in the summer, not let you, sort of slough off your learning from the previous year. And obviously they inspired you to really go far in your lives. And I think that's an incredible, attribute that your parents had.
Well, they really emphasized education. They stayed together. They brought us to church every Sunday. They taught us to pray, and I'm very proud of them, and I hope they're proud of us too.
Yeah, well, I don't think, how could they not be? I'm telling you. One of those things. Well, Dr. Onder, you are going to jump in your car, head west. What time are you heading down to Jefferson City today?
Yeah, probably right around noon. There's a rush first thing in the morning, and as I say, it's a lottery on the first day, so there's no need to be standing in line for hours. But yeah, we're going to go down there, visit with some people. I look forward to the race. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, with the crazy thing with the redistricting in 2020, you're not in the district right now. If you do win,
yeah, that's right. The way I put it is that I practiced medicine here in the 3rd Congressional District for 30 years.
Right.
I lived there for about 22 years, and then I only moved out, a few months ago. We're just outside the district right now in Augusta. But after August 6th, we'll buy a home in the district, and that's where we'll be living.
Yeah, I want to bring that up because I know you were very much involved in Wentzville, which is part of the 3rd Congressional District, the current one as we know it right now then.
Yeah. I represented the 3rd Congressional District for a decade between my state rep and my state Senate services. So I'm really, it's the 3rd Congressional District is home. We just have some screwy lines since the last, redistricting effort.
Boy, and talk about the changes you've seen in Wentzville in 10 years, right?
Oh, yeah. There's no question.
Yes.
When I was in the state house, the fastest growing municipality in the country or in the state was O'Fallon, which I represented then. And when I was in the Senate, the fastest growing municipality in the state was Wentzville, which I represented then. So, yeah, there have been a lot of changes. I remember when there was still a stoplight on Highway 40 out in St. Louis, so it's changed a lot.
I remember there used to be a highway stoplight at Highway 40 and Highway K. Remember that?
Yeah, there too. There too. Amazing changes, yeah.
Right. Dr. Bob Onder, thank you very much. Appreciate your time this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me. Anytime.
Bye-bye. Well, John, what do you think?
It was a good conversation. Yeah.
Can you imagine his parents? I mean, do you think that was a good question I asked about his parents? Because obviously they turned out 3 incredible kids.
Yeah, they did. And, anybody who knows Bob Onder and who knows the kind of man he is knows like how important family is to him and how important those type of things are. And we could have guessed that though, right? Right, Brad? Like we could have guessed that his parents put him through the paces and were honest with them and that he had 2 strong, really, really strong parents. We could have guessed that.
Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's people rise to, a level because of, in spite of bad parents.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Good point. Because if you lacked a father figure, you had to work that much harder to do it yourself. I get what you're saying.
Right. And obviously the positive, family model that he had was, in his respect and his brother and sister's respect, a tremendous asset. And, an ideal situation, that's how you want all kids to be brought up. As far as I'm concerned. But, once again, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the way things are. I think increasingly more and more all the time.
Right, for sure. And also, what we've gotten in the last 2 days, Brad? I had never heard Bob talk before about his medical practice and how much of that time he spent in the 3rd District. I thought that both his answer and Mary Elizabeth Coleman's answer about their relationship with the district and the geography of the district were both very solid answers.
No, I agree with you, and that's the point I wanted to bring up, is because I knew he was very much he's just recently moved to Augusta, so for the majority of his life, he has lived in what is now the 3rd District. And the crazy thing about it is, like he talked about it back when he ran way back when, it was the 9th District, because
that's right.
Back in the day we had 9 districts. We don't have 9 districts anymore. We have 8, because was that in 2010 that we lost the 9th District? Wasn't that in 2010? 2010?
Oh, man. Yeah, because there was a big fight between Rusty Carnahan and Lacey Clay over that district, and Russ got the short end of the stick.
Well, no, I'm saying we did have 9 congressional districts, and we downsized to 8 when we lost. It wasn't with your lost population. Remember what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, and that's when we lost a congressman.
Right, exactly.
We lost. I mean, we were going to lose a Democrat.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And that's when the district lines were split between Lacey and Russ, and Russ lost.
That's right, because of the fact that one of them was going to have the door slammed on them, and they had like somewhat of a little contentious little fight there, but that's neither here nor there, right? Okay. Coming up, I want to talk about Dr. Phil. And you're going like, why would you want to talk about Dr.
Oh, nice. Yeah, boy, he's been in the news lately. He's been on the social media news lately, hasn't he?
Yes, he's been very high profile. As a matter of fact, I think it's interesting because he's taking a stand that I think a lot of people are somewhat surprised at. I mean, well, not necessarily.
I'm certainly surprised. Let's talk about it after the break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?